It's time to take your seat in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Here's your host, Mike Vaccaro.
Thank you, Chuck, and welcome everybody. Mike Vaccaro here once again in the front row. We've got J.R. Quitman, our creator, producer, director behind the scenes. Coming up today, episode number 9, Antoan Richardson. Who is that? Very interesting story. He is currently the first base coach for the San Franscisco Giants, but so much more. One of just 7 players from the Bahamas to play Major League Baseball. We'll hear about that. We'll hear about his role in a big moment for Derek Jeter, and also what he has in common with Clayton Kershaw, a couple of Hall of Famers there. Also on a coaching staff with Gabe Kapler, who was the manager of the year. We'll talk all that and what he's trying to do with the youth in the Bahamas to get more people involved in baseball and more in Major League Baseball. All that coming up, episode number 9 of In the Front Row. Antoan Richardson, thank you so much for joining us here today. What a great story you have that we're going to dive into here. But you're on the road, I'm on the road, and I appreciate you joining us here from the road today.
Mike, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show today. Look forward to you roasting me a little bit and getting some information.
Well, no roast here. We're going to get into some great stuff. Our fellow friend, I guess, Joe Rosen, helped connect us here and get us together to talk about your story. And as you can tell, a little bit of an accent. You're from the Bahamas. You're a guy that was born in Nassau in the early 80s. What was life like for you in the early 80s going into the 90s, growing up in the Bahamas?
I think it's kind of what people envision it. Really relaxed. I think that the pace of life is definitely a lot slower than America when I got over here. But I think of people that really love people, right? I think of a country that thinks about like taking care of its own and multiple people investing in people to try to help people get to reach their goals. And I think the epitome of where I'm at and some of the accomplishments that I've been able to achieve in my lifetime is definitely attributed to so many people back home in the Bahamas that have played such a vital role in my success. And so when I think of the Bahamas, I just think of love. I think of the beautiful people that just pour everything they can into others for their success.
And for you, that love came from your mom and your grandmothers, right? They were the ones that kind of helped raise you.
Yeah, I would say they were the foundation of it all, man. I think my grandmother was a really important part to me growing up. My mom worked a lot, and so I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And she whipped me into shape as best as she could. And then my mom just worked really, really hard and just put me in some really good situations to allow me to kind of take off and just challenge me every step of the way. With my decision-making process and just kind of pushing me to always reach the most that my body and my mind could get to. And so definitely those 2 women are really special women in my life that have attributed a lot to the good parts of me.
Well, those good parts are part of it was hardworking. And as a young age, you were working. Tell us about the job that you had. It was a very unique job. Looking at your bio earlier today.
Well, it was a lot of different jobs, to be honest. So you could be referring to a lot of them, but I know, I used to sell fruit on the side of the road. My grandfather had a piece of land and we had a farm there. And so he would go and gather fruit. And so he'd bring them back to the house and I would go out on the road and I'll sell the fruit that he brought. And it was really fun. It was fun to be a part of. I felt like I was a part of the family and I got to be a part of the business, so to speak. And so that was just always something that I honored and cherished, those moments. I pumped gas at a gas station. I was a porter at the airlines, like taking the tourist bags off the airplanes and pushing them to the cars. So I've done a lot of different jobs growing up, man.
Well, certainly that desire and that work ethic helped you as you moved along in your career. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment. But for you, when did sports become part of your life and your fabric and something that you saw as maybe, a way to move on from the Bahamas?
Honestly, I actually didn't recognize the the role sports was going to play in my life until I actually got to America. But I will say, I grew up in a family. My mom was one of probably the best athletes in high school from the stories I've heard from people in the past. And we would race against each other a lot growing up, and I still haven't beat her in a races yet. I've heard stories about my aunts and my uncles, and so my great grandmother won at Davis Cup in tennis, and so like had a really talented family when it comes to athletics. And so it was always kind of ingrained in our family. But I do remember a pivotal time in my athletic career in the Bahamas. It was in the sixth grade actually. So I grew up always being the third or fourth fastest guy in my grade, and I would always I'd always come third or fourth. It was I never ever could get the second or first. And I remember in the sixth grade, it's funny because one of the guys in my class, he brings it up to this day. He's like, I'll never forget this day. So we had a track meet, and the two guys were favorite. They literally would win every single time. And whatever reason, this particular race, everybody had their money on these other two guys, and for somehow I won the race. And I still don't know how I won the race, but ever since that point, I kind of took off athletically from a sprinting standpoint and starting to get more confidence in the games. And then at the age of 14, I got an opportunity to come to America and pursue an education through sports. And as I was going through that process, I still wasn't sure about the role that sports was going to play, because I just wasn't very good at baseball. I grew up playing fast pitch softball, as you know. And in my junior year, there was a young man from the Bahamas. His name was Angelo Burrows. He was drafted by the Atlanta Braves. I'm pretty sure it was the Atlanta Braves. And that was the first time that I actually thought, like, wow, like actually sports can play a pivotal role in this journey. And so seeing a fellow Bahamian, someone that I could actually like resonate with, have some success, I think was the platform or the springboard for me.
But before that, though, you mentioned softball. You were cut from your softball team. So how do you kind of take that and then maybe put it to word? Okay, I'm going to get better at this.
It's funny because I talked about the sixth grade where like I gained this confidence from winning this race, and I go to the seventh grade and I try out for the softball team and I get cut. We talk a lot about sports being very humbling. So what a humbling experience, right? But I think the support that was around me, right? I think my grandmother, my mother, and it was a support of love, but it also wasn't a pat on the back, like, hey, it's okay. It was like, well, you need to like figure out what it is that you need to get better at, and let's put in the work, and I'll be here to support you along the way. And I think, that support system had been there the whole entire time. But a critical piece to that support system was, if you fall, like, we'll be here to catch, right? And it wasn't a crutch, but it was letting you know, like, be fearless in your pursuit of your dreams. But no matter what, man, you have a family here that's gonna love you for that journey, gonna love you for that process of going through it all. And so that was the biggest confidence that I took into my life, and still to this day hold on to dearly.
Yeah, it's great to have, like you said, that great support system that you had. And eventually, as I said, they kind of send you away. You go to Florida, you go to play at a high school there. What was that like for you to leave the Bahamas, maybe for the first time for you, as you said, to pursue and to see where your athletic career could take you?
Yeah, it was definitely the first time in that capacity for by myself, right, and for an extended period of time. And I mean, what it was a culture shock. That's what it was. I ended up going to a school where was predominantly white. I just came from a country that's predominantly black, and so in itself, like, that was a like culture shock for me. I think I might have been one of maybe 5 black people in the entire school, and so and also just from a economic standpoint, it was like one of the wealthiest places I've ever been in my life. I was in Boca Raton, Florida. I had 16-year-olds driving Mercedes Benz, and I just came from the Bahamas, piling in a little Pinto, with 7 people, going from point A to point B. And so it was definitely just a whole different world, and my eyes just were like really wide, because it was things I just hadn't seen before, right? It was like I was watching TV, and even the TV that I was able to get in the Bahamas, I couldn't see these stories. And so for me, it was just a really big culture shock, and it was tough, and it was really challenging. I felt homesick because I felt like I did not belong. I felt it was very foreign. Um, but once again, like there's so many people around me that continue to push me into this place of uncomfortability, knowing that it would have a chance to garner some success. And so yeah, I wish I could say it was like really cool transition, but it was hard. I mean, up to this point, I could probably still say this is probably the most challenging part of my life so far.
And again, did you lean back on your mom, your grandmother to kind of, help you through that time, even though they weren't with you in Florida, but did you lean on them?
Absolutely. Like, people laugh at me to this day because I have this saying. I was like, no matter what happens, my Grammy's gonna love me, right? And so that's just something I carried with me. And I just, like no matter what, I really like just kind of lean into that love and knowing that like as long as you put I put everything I can into whatever activity it is, I still have the most important part, like one of the most important parts of my life is my family, and that's not going to change, right? Like and so the way I pour into that is like where the success is going to really be valued. Like, how do I pour into my family and the people that love me? These other things that I do is just icing on the cake. And I think holding on to that has given me a lot of perspective on this journey, and being away from the family so much is just really been comforting to like know I could hold on to that piece.
Again, in high school, you played baseball, you played football as well. I would assume that's where your speed maybe came into play as well. What was your football career like?
Well, the speed had to come into play because I was very tiny and I had to run away from some people. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it was something I always enjoyed. I didn't really understand it growing up because once again, it wasn't a sport that I was familiar playing with in the Bahamas. But once I got to America, I think some of the coaches saw that I could run a little bit, and it's like, hey, this might be an opportunity. And so, I would just get the ball and run and just try to run away from the people with the other uniform on, right? And I used to try to keep it that simple. And if it's thrown to me, just try to catch it. And so, and I had some success. It was a really fun time. Had some opportunities to pursue it in college. My mom wasn't too excited about that. She was just, I'm not coming to watch you play. I just can't watch these big guys knock my little baby around. And so ultimately, after a while, I realized, like, man, I don't necessarily know if this could be the smartest thing for me at longevity, and just kind of pivoted to baseball later on.
And not only athletics, but you excelled in the classroom as well in high school. You were a class salutatorian. Um, again, you talk about the transition, but educationally, why did it? Maybe on paper, at least, it looks like it was an easy transition for you.
Yeah, it is amazing. I think there was a responsibility once I left the island. It was a responsibility to succeed and do well, and kind of create a path for others to have those opportunities. And so I really immersed myself in my education, as well as the craft of my sport. And just sticking on the educational part, my grandmother was a teacher, and obviously she was a really important part in my life. And so I just really wanted to make sure that I gave this opportunity my all. I felt as if I had a chance to really open the doors for more Bahamians to like go down this path and have this opportunity. And so I was just super focused, man. I mean, I came from the Bahamas, and I can't say I was an A student in the Bahamas. I was somewhere around a C student, to be quite frank. And I probably had a little bit more distractions when I was back home. And so coming over here, though, it challenged me to kind of focus a little bit. And with that focus, ended up doing well at the classroom. I think my mom was funny. My mom was really excited about it, but she was also probably a little pissed off because she was like, you wasted my time when you were back home." And so I couldn't win for losing in that situation.
Well, I'm sure she was happy though when you got a scholarship to Brown. You had a chance to go to an Ivy League school. You didn't go there though. You went to Palm Beach Community College as well. Instead, kind of to pursue the athletic side, the baseball side. But what was it like? And was that a hard, conversation with your mom to say, "Listen, I'm not going to go to Brown. I'm doing this, taking this other route."
Yeah. So mom was 100% supportive. From day one, she was like, "Hey, this is your decision. Whatever decision you make, I'm gonna be 120% behind you." So that was the easy part. And I really cherished my mother for empowering me to make that decision, because at that point in time, I had to take ownership of my life and my career. Right? Like, I think if she had said, "Hey, you should do this or you should do that," it would always been a little crutch for me in this pursuit, and be like, "Well, my mom told me to do this or my mom told me to do that." And so I really cherish the fact that she put it on me to take ownership for the direction of my life at that point in time. And I'm sure if she thought I was making a catastrophic decision, she would have been like, pump the brakes. But I'll tell you, the toughest conversations were with my teachers. My teachers at American Heritage, that was a tough pill for them to swallow. They were so excited about the opportunity for me to go to Brown. And when they heard that, like, I was deciding against going to Brown to go to junior college, I think it was really heartbreaking to some of them. But ultimately, I really felt supported by them as well. And I can say, at that point in time, I didn't realize the prestige of Brown at that time. Like, once again, like you talk about culture shocks. For me, Ivy Leagues, only thing I knew about Ivy was like poison ivy, right? Like, and so at that point in time, I had no idea the prestige of an Ivy League school. My goal from day one was just to get a college education, and so I didn't necessarily recognize the difference of how these institutions were seen in the eye of society. And so it was an easy decision for me, when I kind of like bubble it down. But I'm glad it happened that way, because I think if I complicated it, who knows where I'd have been at this point in time.
Well, Palm Beach Community College. I mean, it's a good school, obviously, but it's a good athletic school as well as a community college. Were you recruited to go there? What was that process like to get you there to Palm Beach Community College?
So at that point in time, I was going into my senior year finishing my senior year at American Heritage, and I was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles. And so at that point in time, I actually had a couple of decisions to make. Right, I had a decision whether to pursue football first and then baseball at Brown. So I've been able to do both of those at Brown. Go to the Citadel, which is in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, to play baseball, or sign a professional contract. And then later on in the game, it was made aware to me that I had an opportunity to maybe go to junior college and play there for a year, and then have the opportunity to kind of maybe sign again after my junior year. And as I was talking to the scout in this process, he was kind of explaining to me this other option, and it sounded appealing. But more importantly, my two best friends were going to Palm Beach Community College, so it was like, oh, I don't get to break up this brotherhood as yet. And so the scout helped me see this other route. I already had two really good friends that were going to Palm Beach Community College. For me, it made perfect sense. And so I started that journey. Went to Palm Beach Community College. Had a really good coach there in Craig Giroux that invested a lot of time in me. Kind of taught me how to switch hit. And so definitely really value that time a lot in my life.
Couple of years there, and then you're showing it there. The Vandy boys, Eric Bakich, you give him a lot of credit. Assistant coach at the time, now the head coach of Michigan baseball, but you give him credit for finding you, bringing you to Vanderbilt, and certainly a great baseball program on the college level for sure.
Yeah. So Eric Bakich and I, we hit it off from the beginning. He came down to Palm Beach. And he saw me play, and we just hit it off. And it was just I felt like I trusted him right from the get go. And I remember, like, the funny story here is that I remember going on a visit. I want to say Vanderbilt was my first official visit. So I go on this visit, and we were just, kind of going around the school. Once again, another shock to me, because I'm like, what's this thing? This is humongous. This campus, country music all over the place. I'm like, where's the reggae and island music? And so we it's SEC is opening weekend of SEC baseball, and I forget who they were playing at the time, but it was about 65 degrees, and I was freezing. And I remember talking to coach, and I was like, "Hey, coach, like, does it get any colder than this? Because if it does, I just can't come here. Like, this is just not gonna work." And he looks me in the eyes. He's like, "This is the coldest it gets." And so I was like, "All right, deal. I'm in." And so I show up, and I remember our first practice, the field was like covered in snow. It was about 30 something degrees, but it was the best decision. One of the best decisions I've made in my life, man. So I'm very thankful for Eric Backage, the way he kind of guided me through that Vanderbilt process. Really, really was like a father to me, father/brother to me. And then obviously Coach Tim Corbin, who runs the whole program, like, those are really two influential people in my life.
And the Vandy boys, I mean, it's such a brotherhood. You see them in Major League Baseball. I'm sure you see these guys all the time, as you're the first base coach of the San Francisco Giants. So I'm sure you see these guys. Are you friendly with them? Any of those guys that you played with at Vanderbilt?
So David Price and I actually played together for 1 year. Obviously, he's with the Los Angeles Dodgers. A lot of other guys a little younger than me, and so I didn't get a chance to play with them. But we definitely crossed paths, and and we're all friendly. You know what I mean? I think we have this common brotherhood, and it's funny because obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I know the Dodgers Giants rivalry is a pretty big rivalry, and so we face Walker Buehler a lot. He's a Vandy boy. We got a couple guys on our team, Mike Yastrzemski, Kurt Casale. And so I think we are friendly, but once the first pitch is thrown, man, I think the gloves go on, but we wouldn't have it any other way. And so it was some fun battles over the last 2 years that I've been a part of it. And we've seen a lot of Walker Buehler, and he's been really good against us. So it's always fun, though. It's always fun when you get to line up against another Vandy boy and go at it. We when we went to Cincinnati, Sonny Gray was pitching, and so like it's just always fun. I mean, you want bragging rights, right? And so it's like going out and trying to find out how you're going to land a knockout punch.
Well, you maybe have some bragging rights over them. December 2008, you got an engineering science degree from Vanderbilt. What are you doing in baseball when you have an engineering degree? I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment. Once again, as you said, coming from the Bahamas to excel as you have academically as well as athletically is incredible.
Yeah, once again, I think I attribute it back to my grandmother and her teaching days, and just always being very influential, and kind of like, letting me know the importance of gaining education. And I've seen it, right? I think the fact of being a part of such a prestigious university in a group has definitely opened some doors for me. But I'm using it to get the right angles around the bases, right? Trying to figure out the right angles around the bases for our base runners. So definitely using that degree on the field.
There you go. There you go. Yes, baseball is all about angles. You're exactly right. In the end, you were drafted 4 different times. Finally, the last time you signed with the San Francisco Giants, what was it like drafted and signing your first contract like that?
It was a pretty special moment, and it's special for a few different reasons. So one quick story. When I first got drafted, I called my mother and I was like, "Hey, Mom, I just wanted to let you know I got drafted." And she looks at me, she's like, "Hey, what's a draft?" And so I thought that was funny because I was just calling her to try it once again, like her give me some direction. And she was like, "You know what? Like, once again, you need to take ownership for this thing and run with it." So that was kind of funny. And then, going into my junior year, I got an opportunity to be drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and my senior year at Vanderbilt was definitely not my best year in baseball. It was I didn't hit really well. I don't think I even played really well on the field. And so after the season, I questioned whether or not I would even get an opportunity to pursue professional baseball. And so with the Giants taking a chance on me later on in the draft, I was just really thankful because I at that point in time, I personally didn't think I was deserving of it based on my performance on the field. And so at that point in time, it was like kind of like a second win, and I just kind of wanted to run with it and just make the most out of it. Even though, I know the money was going to be great, that late in the draft, I also knew that like the opportunity in that window was going to be really tiny. But wanted to like make the most of it. Like my family and so many people who have supported me have always encouraged me to do.
Bounced around a little bit, but you finally make your Major League Baseball debut 2011, September 4th, 2011. You remember that? You remember what that moment was like for you?
Yeah, I do. I do. I remember being on the on-deck circle. Well, I remember being in awe at the beginning of the game. We were facing the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw was on the mound, and this was the year that he won the Cy Young. He was just striking everybody out. I just remember sitting on the bench talking to Michael Bourne at the time, and he was like, "Hey, look," he's getting ahead, and then he's throwing that breaking ball, and like the breaking ball is tough. You gotta be aggressive. And I remember going on deck, and after the hitter got out, I looked back at Freddie Gonzalez, who was the manager at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna go hit." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I'm thinking to myself as I'm walking to the plate, I'm like, "All right, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna bunt? Am I gonna swing? Am I gonna bunt? Am I gonna swing?" And in the same process, I'm thinking, "Don't look up, don't look up, don't look up." And I get into the box first thing I see is this big old jumbotron with my face on it. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, here we go."
And this is with the Braves, right? You're with the Braves at the time.
I'm with the Atlanta Braves at the time. And so, and then I get into the batter's box, and it felt somewhat familiar. It felt like, oh, I've done this before. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm bunting or swinging at this point in time, right? And I'm thinking, and so last minute I say to myself, well, if I bunt, my friends are gonna make fun of me and be like, "Hey, is that what you did in your first at bat?" And so I just decided, like, I'm gonna swing as hard as I can, and I hit the ball about 120 feet right over the second baseman's head. I got a hit. So that was pretty cool, man. Like just thinking of the journey from the Bahamas to that point in time, and just so how many people like were a part of it. It was just really cool to be able to have that moment with them and share that moment with them. And so that was pretty exciting.
There we go. There's that hit right there. Good job, JR, with that. So you always see this. Let's see. Do we have this? Did we get the ball? Where is that ball now?
My ball's in the possession of my mother, so she has that stored away somewhere. So that's in her collection.
That's awesome. I mean, against Clayton Kershaw as well. I mean, certainly a Hall of Fame pitcher, and to say you have that, I mean, that's going to be a story that you could tell for forever, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it was kind of foreshadowing these days now with the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. Now, at the time, and I guess you were the sixth player for the Bahamas. Now there's seven. Jazz Chisholm with the Marlins as well. So only seven players from the Bahamas to ever play in Major League Baseball. I mean, obviously you're in a select company. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. And I think about like, how do we grow that number, to be honest? Because I know there are a lot of young people who want to experience that dream. And we have a lot of talented young people in the Bahamas. So I spent a lot of time thinking about like how we're gonna increase that number, get double digits, and then to the 3 digits. But yeah, but I also feel really fortunate, right? I feel really fortunate to be a part of that select crew, and think about the efforts of so many Bahamians before, and I think about the responsibility, as a former player, and then now, with Jazz and watching his success, just really proud to see the torch that he's carrying. And so, yeah, I feel very honored to be a part of that select group. But at the same time, like trying to find ways to make that fraternity, I guess, grow as soon as possible.
Is there just not the support or that system like you see the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and other places like that in Latin America? Is there just not that system in place, you think, right now for the Bahamas to find that talent, cultivate it, and get them to the next level?
Yeah, no, I think there is. We have some systems put in place. I think we have the talent. We do need a little bit more help, right? We do need to play some more baseball games. I do think we have to find ways to invest in our players a little bit more. And I think a critical piece is just like um, people like myself, people like Jazz, and people like who've had an opportunity to play the game, being able to continue to mentor and help shape the direction that some of the players are going to take, right? And I think because I do think there's some sort of blueprint that's going to help each one of these players maximize their ability, but and I guess like give themselves a greater chance of making it to the major leagues. And so I think it's just important that we share that information, but share it in a way that they can understand it, and make sure it's getting to them. And I think we just got to find a really efficient way to make that happen. And if we're able to do that, then I do think like you will definitely see a lot more Bahamians in the major leagues in a short period of time.
Well, again, you're one of the few guys, and after your time with the Braves, you bounced around a little bit. The Orioles, the Twins, and then the Yankees. And a big moment for you in your career happened with the Yankees, and it involves another Hall of Famer, Derek Jeter. Tell us about Derek Jeter's last game at Yankee Stadium and your role in a huge moment in that game for him.
Yeah, it just comes back, man. I feel very fortunate to have had these opportunities, right? Like, get my first hit off of Clayton Kershaw. And Chipper Jones was on that team, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and then get a chance to play with the Yankees and so many great players on that team. And then like of all the scenarios and things that happened, to be a part of Derek Jeter's last at bat at Yankee Stadium. And so obviously I think everybody knows what Derek Jeter means to the game of baseball and what he's meant to the game of baseball for so long. But here you go right here. But yeah, it was a pretty cool moment, man. Derek Jeter's last at bat, I was on second base, and he did what he does all the time, right? He hit a base hit to right field. I was running my butt off, and just thinking the whole time, like, I better score, because I just don't know that I would have been able to leave the stadium if I didn't score on that play. And so it was fun. It was just really cool to be a part of that, and it was just so cool to see him get to create that moment at Yankee Stadium one more time for the fans, and to be a part of it. Continue to talk about it for a very long time has been really cool.
What did he say to you after that game? Because again, like you said, you hustled. You got from second base all the way around on a single to right field. So your speed that you had growing up certainly came into play. Did he thank you for having that speed that day?
Yeah, he showed me a lot of love, man, and I think it was just a really emotional day for him. So I think he was just kind of exhausted from like physically from the game, but I think emotionally, from all those years in New York and his family being there. So I think it was a really emotional day for him, and he was drained, but he's definitely like showed a lot of love. For myself and like everybody, right? Like that's just the type of person that he was, or is, I should say. He's just really, he respects everybody and treats everybody the same way. Just have a ton of respect for him and how he goes about his business.
Yeah, so again, that's great to have that, more or less on your resume, to be a part of such a big moment, final moment in his career there. You bounced around a little bit more after that, the Rangers, the Pirates, even the Dodgers, your hated rivals right now. And then you retired in 2017. What led you to retirement, and how tough was that for you to say, okay, I've had enough playing wise. It's time to hang it up?
It was tough. I mean, as a competitor, like I think you at least for me as a competitor, I don't want to just like kind of walk away from anything, right? But at the same time, like I had to be realistic with the sense of where my heart was, and my heart was pulling me in a different direction. And I knew that like in order for me to compete at the highest level, my heart had to be in it 110%. I just wasn't good enough to like not have my heart into this thing 110%, because I had to work out as hard as I can. I had to put in the hours in the batting cage, on the field, And if my heart wasn't there 110%, then I just would not be successful. And so at this point in time, I just recognized that I was being pulled in a different direction, and I needed to answer that call. And I love to put my all into things that I do. And at this point in time, I felt like the need was to kind of serve our community in the Bahamas, right? Like, how do I use some of the knowledge and experiences that I've had and bring those to life for young people in the Bahamas. And at that point in time, it was an easy decision when I started to think of it in that capacity, and one that I'm grateful that I made, and just continue trying to find ways to like empower the youth in our country and help them to have more opportunities than they currently do.
Is that Project Limestone youth programs that you're involved with? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Project Limestone, it was just a nonprofit that I founded with Bria DeVoe, a guy named Sean Sands, and Krishad Lang, and we, funny thing about the name, right? So first of all, we thought about the name, and the Bahamas, which is made up of mostly limestone rock. And the cool part about the story I like to share is that so limestone by itself is a very porous material, and it like wind and water kind of deteriorate it. But if you cultivate it the right way, you can build structures that stand the test of time. So we have a few forts back in Nassau that have been there from the 1700s and made of limestone. And so, our thought is like, how do we come together as a country? How do we come together as a people? How do we make diversity and make it strong? And so like, our thought is like, we have independently strong, unitedly unbreakable, and united unbreakable. And so that's just been our mantra this whole time. It's just like, how are we going to find strength in this diversity? And so, we just really just trying to find ways to pour into communities and help young people be curious learners, respect themselves, respect others. And ultimately, they have this passion to go after their dreams because of that confidence that's been instilled with them.
Sounds like you put that engineering degree to good use there, coming up with that name. And you knew exactly limestone and what it was used for.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that, but that was probably me just agreeing with some other people.
There you go. We'll give you the credit. Well, along with that, then eventually you start coaching, and tell us about that. How'd you get into coaching? Obviously, now with the Giants, did you just start with the Giants right away?
No, so when I was back home at Project Limestone, I got a couple phone calls from a couple different teams about the opportunity to coach. At that point in time, I wanted to kind of take a little time away from the game and, like I said, like invest in the Bahamas. And then as I was talking to like some of my colleagues, we recognized like, hey, like there's a way to be able to invest in the Bahamas, but also bring more awareness to the Bahamas. And what better way to bring awareness than like, being in the game around people that care about these things. And so at that point in time, I was fortunate enough the Toronto Blue Jays had called, and they had a position. It was a fellowship, and so it didn't require me to be there full time. And so it was an opportunity to go in there and learn more about baseball, learn about this side of the game, and also an opportunity to invest time into the development of what they were trying to create there and win the championship. And I think our values aligned, and so it was an easy decision. And so I joined the Toronto Blue Jays in late 2018, and was able to spend a lot of time working with them, but also had some time, created time to come back and make sure we continue to build the foundation of Project Limestone. And it wasn't until started with the Blue Jays in the ending of 2017. And then it wasn't until the beginning of 2019 that I joined the San Franscisco Giants within their minor league system. And then in 2020 was my first year on the major league staff. So that's kind of how my coaching journey began.
Yeah, your coaching journey began almost the same way with your playing journey. As far as signing a contract with the Giants, you go back with the Giants, and so your first year is a pandemic year. What was that like? As a coach, being in these games with no fans, maybe just the noise pumped in, the crowd noise. What was it like for you guys as coaches and players to be in these empty arenas?
At first, I didn't know what to expect, and then what I really appreciated was the competitive nature of the players. Like, I think like the competition didn't change. It was still like, I'm trying to beat you every single day. And I think that was really cool. Even though we didn't have fans in the stands, I don't think it changed the level of commitment to compete every single night. And that was really cool to be a part of. And it made me, it kind of made me just like kind of sit back and recognize like, wow, like this is what professional sports is, like the ultimate competition, right? Like you don't need this external motivation to be able to compete at a high level. However, the fans just enhance that, right? Like I think they kind of bring a little bit a different type of emotion to the game that didn't exist. And so one, I would say last year last year was good because it was my first time doing it, and I didn't have people heckling me the whole time, right? So it was a good way to get my feet wet. And then this year, man, it was just electric to be in the stadiums and to see the fans back, the pack houses, and just see the passion that they have, and enjoy the heckling. You know what I mean? But I it was good to get 60 games under my belt, and kind of get into a routine and figure some things out before having everybody roasting me, I guess. And so it was fun, but I definitely, we missed the fans, and having the fans has been a really, really good. But I also think there was a benefit for people like myself who have never done it before to kind of get their feet wet.
Yeah, there are a lot of rookies, I think, that came up that had a chance. Like you said, the pandemic year, don't have those big crowds, and those fans maybe make them nervous. Let's go into this year now. You go into the year, Dodgers have the big payroll. They're picked to win it all. The Padres making big signings. They're there to compete. The Giants, they're in the West as well. You guys weren't given any credit going into the year, and you guys finish up with the best record in baseball. How'd you do it? How'd you guys do it?
We just won 107 games.
Easy, right? Easy.
No, I think when you say how you do it, you just kind of look at the organization. You look at the people on the field, look at the players, you look at the staff, and then you kind of step back. You think of the front office, you think of everybody in the baseball ops department, and you just realize like how much time and effort went into it from everybody, right? It was just a collective. It literally was a collective effort. I don't know that we went 107 games without every single piece of that operation kind of working. And I think that we all felt it. I think it started with the players and their like confidence that, hey, we're gonna go and win this division. And then we had the staff and front office that was gonna support the players in that journey. And like I said, I just think it was just a collective effort, but led by the players. And we just invested the time and worked as a unit. And we just found ways to win games like every night, and we took it one game at a time. I know it's a cliche, but that's what it was. But it took everybody working together for that to happen. It wasn't easy. It was exhausting. I think at the end of the season, I know for me, I was like, wow, like I didn't realize how exhausting it was, but it was really exhausting. It took a lot out of me personally, but it was worth every minute of it.
Yeah, so many bottom of the ninth inning, extra inning wins for you guys this year as well. Tell us about, first base coach. Obviously, you're there during the game. You're at first base, but what are your other roles as a first base coach on a Major League Baseball team?
So it varies from team to team. I just know some of my responsibilities included base running as well as outfield development and some of the tactical stuff in terms of how we position and whatnot. And so a lot of my work actually happened before the game, right? There's a lot of scouting, trying to understand ways that we can expose the other team. And then also just making sure that our guys, players, are well prepared, or as prepared as they can be, to succeed on any given night. Making sure they're in the right position, they have all the things they need. And then also me doing as much studying on the pitchers and the arms, just to kind of give us a competitive advantage once we get on the base. And so a lot of the work happens before, and it's just like a lot of scouting, and just trying to, and once again, like individualizing it to find out how am I going to help player A, how am I going to help this player and that player in any given situation as best as I can.
What is that conversation? All right, you've got a guy at first base. What's that conversation you guys have when he gets there?
Well, first it's like, thanks for getting over here. I appreciate that. And then, it's usually, some general stuff, right? Making sure that we understand the outs, we understand the situation. Some guys want different information, right? Some guys want to know the time to the plate that the pitcher's doing. Some guys want to know, like, hey, just want to reconfirm the outfield arms. And then, like, some guys, like, we're waiting for them to hit the ball, so we're not going to really do much. It's just like, hey, how are we going to maximize this lead? Some guys like, hey, let me check in with the first baseman, see how he's doing. I'm just joking. But, and then, if we have something, that's going to help us out, right? Like if we have something that the pitcher's doing that's going to help us gain 90 feet, then like we're going to share that information and we're going to look for it. And when we get that opportunity, we're going to take advantage of it. If we have something anywhere, like we're just going to talk about that. And if it comes up, we want to be prepared to pounce. And so I think one of the most important things that I'm doing there is just making sure that we're prepared for when the moment happens, right? Like, because I think, they don't happen. You might get it once the entire game, but we want to make sure we're prepared to take that opportunity when it happens. And so that's kind of what the conversations are about, just making sure that we're prepared for the opportunity.
Your scan report, I'm sure you've got to take into account the ballpark you're in as well for different situations where, maybe a ball down the right field line. At some ballparks you can go first to third, other times you can't. Is that important as well to know where you're at and how ballparks play sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. And the players are really good. They're really smart. They're really smart when it comes to like baseball and knowing those situations. And so most of the times, like they just really make good decisions. I'm probably just an annoying person, just like tell them information that they already know most of the time. And so, but that's part of my job, is to be annoying, right? And just making sure that they have that information. But to your point, yeah, I think, we have to take into consideration the way the ballpark plays, take into consideration how the ball comes off of the wall, all these different things we like to try to take in consideration when we're making our decisions.
You mentioned the first baseman. Who's the best first baseman that you've enjoyed? That maybe you have a chance to talk a little bit. We see Freddie Freeman. We see a guy like Albert Pujols. Who's one of your favorites to talk to on the opposing team?
Good question. So Freddie and I played together in Atlanta. So that's always fun to kind of catch up with the guys you played with. Hosmer's he's pretty talkative over there. Pretty nice guy. Bellinger, pretty cool with the Dodgers. I think it's Matt Olson with the A's. I think they all, like, I haven't run into anybody who I'm like, oh boy, it's gonna be a long day over there. You know what I mean? So they've all been like they have their own personalities, and they've all been like really, really cool to get to know a little bit over there. Even when they get out, you know what I mean? They're still kind of cool to talk to. So, but I would say, I think Fred and I have had some of the more extensive conversations just because we have a little history together.
How about when you're at first base and the opposing dugout is next to you? You hear anything from those guys at all, negative or positive?
More negative than positive. And then every once in a while you get a couple of guys just kind of chirping in a fun loving way. Especially if I have a Vandy guy in the next dugout, right? They're just like on me the whole entire game. They just won't stop talking. And so, yeah, it's usually some fun banter going back and forth, but usually, it's just usually fun banter going back and forth. And then every once in a while, it's like nobody's talking to anybody. It's like, it's pretty tense, Yeah. So other times it's like, like you like a pin dropping away from a fight, right? And so it's just some awareness on both sides of it. But most of the times, like I got a friend with the Padres, Ryan Flaherty, who went to Vanderbilt, and he, when he's just like chirping the whole entire time, like it's just like, I'm like, man, get away from me, And so So yeah, it's definitely chirping going on from the opposing dugout, a lot.
Well, again, you're part of a coaching staff where your manager was the manager of the year in the National League, and I'm sure you guys take that almost as a team award. What did it mean when Gabe Kapler got that award? And again, you're part of his coaching staff.
Yeah, I think I'm glad to be a part of that staff, right? I'm glad to be a part of what we're trying to create and what we are creating in San Francisco. And so, award or not, right? I just think just really proud to be a part of that diverse group that continues to try to get better every day and find ways to win. I think Kapla has been a really good leader for the staff as well as the players. And he's just done a really good job. And so I for him to get that recognition as an individual, I think it was well deserved. And I think it was, so in the next, I was just like, man, it's an honor to be a part of the staff that you put together, and to go on this journey with, because it hasn't always been easy. I mean, I think you could look at 107 games and be, excited about that. But we also went 29 and 31 in 2020. And it wasn't, and the first 20 games of that season was rough. We didn't we took a lot of backlash from a lot of different people, but we stayed the course. And I think he was a big reason for that, for helping us stay the course. And so helping us to gain our traction and footing in 2020 to finish strong, to springboard us into 2021 and help us win the NLS.
Tough for you as a coach on that team to see it end, unfortunately, the way it did for the Giants. Again, you have the best record all year long, and to have the Dodgers and Giants play, and it wasn't even for the National League Championship. It was almost a shame when you look at it from Major League Baseball standpoint. But was it a tough ending for you guys? Obviously.
Yeah, I think anytime. I think anytime that you. Well, let me start. I think you always want to win the last game of the season. I think that's why you play, right? You play to be the champion, and so that was disappointing, and that we didn't get a chance to continue to go on. But I think there was a lot of fulfillment in the things that happened throughout the year, and I think take away the 107 wins, you start to think about the relationships that were built. You start to think about the progress that was made. You think about the chemistry and culture that was built, and you sit there and you feel really good about that, because those are things that are sustainable, and those are things that have an opportunity to translate into the next year and years to come, that allow you a platform to continue to win. And so, was it disappointing to not move on? Absolutely. But was it really fulfilling to experience what we did this entire year? Absolutely as well. And I think we as a group have been able to hold on to the things that have been really fulfilling, and recognize that those things we have an opportunity to kind of use as a platform going into 2022 to try and do the same thing and a little bit more, right? Try to win the West one more time, and try to advance a little further into the playoffs, and hopefully, we are playing to win that last game of the entire season in Major League Baseball.
Unfortunately, he'll do it with a new catcher, as Buster Posey decided to retire. What a year he had after a year off during the pandemic, and playing some high-level baseball. Were you surprised that he retired?
It's a good question. I guess yes and no. I think when you listen to his press conference, and you hear, his reasons for retiring, and you sit there and you recognize those are things that are really important to him, and you just applaud him for being able to make that tough decision, and being able to go spend some time with his family. And so definitely not surprised. I'm not surprised that he's decided to spend more time with his family. But I think the other end of it, you think wow, what a great year. You think he'll come back and do it again. But so I guess to answer your question, ultimately not surprised, because I think Buster has, in the short time I've gotten to know him, the things that he values and he puts into perspective are the things that's helped him to come to this tough decision. And so just really, really excited for him, really excited for his family. I'm glad that he gets to do it his way, you know. And I think that's a really cool, and he deserves that.
Yeah, I'm sure another Hall of Famer that you'll be, part of. What made him so special as a catcher, not just this year, but in his career? I know you've only been around him a couple of years, but what did you see in him, and what made him such a special player?
I just think his ability to just approach the game with such calmness on any given situation. I'm not even say every day. It's just like every given situation, right? His ability to, in a high pressure moment, to really slow the game down and make it seem as if like he's playing with football in his backyard, right? And if the game's moving too slow, being able to speed it up a little bit to get to the pace that we needed to, so that we as a team could excel. And so obviously we could talk about, the way he throws the baseball, the way he catches and the way he hits. But I think his ability to every day to just be a calming presence for everybody around him, we're gonna miss that. We're gonna miss that dearly. I think that was something that we have no way to develop, right? Like, I shouldn't say we have no way to develop. I don't know how to develop it. Let me put it like that. And but I know we really valued that and really cherished that, and I think that's. We're going to miss that a lot about him.
Well, let's talk about you and what's in your future. You're obviously very, young into your coaching career. Where do you see this taking you?
I don't know. I think I'm really excited about being the first base coach of the San Francisco Giants. When I think about coaching, I think about impacting players and also like impacting, the Bahamas, by being by people being motivated by what I do. And so those are the things that drive me. And as of right now, I think the focus is just continue to do the particular job I have like really, really well, and focus on that. And then if there are opportunities that come from that, then that'll be great. And I kind of explore them as they come, if they do come. But my only focus right now is to be the best first base coach I can be for the San Francisco Giants, and then be a really good ambassador / role model for the Bahamas, and continue to encourage and inspire young people back home. And I get to do that every single day in this particular role. And so that's very fulfilling to me. So, but I'm saying, like, if something does pop up, like I do think you have to weigh those options and see like, hey, does this give you an opportunity to impact the things that are important to you greater? Do you have an opportunity to really give back to your country more in doing so? And so those are things I kind of think about as I go through. But right now is coach first base, continue to learn, because I still have a lot to learn, man. I've only been doing it for a short period of time. There's a ton to learn, a ton to get better at, and I'm looking forward to those challenges every day.
Could you see yourself as a Major League Baseball manager at some point in your career?
At this point in time, I don't think I'm smart enough at this point in time, right?
You have an engineering degree from Vanderbilt. I think you are.
Well, if we had a Vanderbilt Major League Baseball team, someone might trust me in that. But at this point in time, it's just tough to say. Like I really, there's so much I think that I want to learn and get better at. And then the next part about it is family, right? Is thinking about like, spending time, with the people that you love and like how that impacts that. So we'll see, man. This has been a crazy journey for me. You start off talking about like Brown and all these different things, like, and so there's a lot of things that I probably would have never predicted that would happen in my lifetime. And being a manager is one that I haven't thought about or predicted either. And so, but I know based on my story, some crazier things have happened. So who knows? But if we do, we'll reconnect and talk about that.
How can people follow you? How can people maybe get involved with Project Limestone? Because again, you're doing great work, and it's, I could tell it's not about you. It's about the youth, and your priorities are certainly in the right place. How can people kind of get involved or follow you in your progress?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, man. That's really kind of you. I think you go to projectlimestone.org and you drop us a line in there. And we'll be in touch. I think if people want to follow me, I'm not the greatest at social media. I do have an Instagram account. I think it's Antoan Richardson. So I do have an Instagram account. If you want to shoot me a line through that, I check that every once in a while. But But yeah, contact us at Project Limestone. Reach out on social media. I think Instagram probably the best place to get me on that particular one. And yeah, I'd love to chat, especially if it's about the Bahamas and if it's about development, if it's about young people and impacting. Definitely love to have the conversation.
Well, again, you've made your mom and your Grammy proud. What a great story you have of just success, nothing but success for you. And we wish you all the best moving forward, wherever your career may take you, and certainly a lot of luck with Project Limestone. Like you said, let's see more youth from the Bahamas get involved with Major League Baseball and more than just 7 and get that number to grow. That'd be great to see.
No doubt, man. Mike, I appreciate you taking the time and having me on the show. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to doing it here in a couple of years when some of your predictions come to pass.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Antoan. I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Well, again, my thanks to Antoan Richardson joining us here today. Also, thanks to Joe Rosen, one of our previous guests, for helping us hook up with Richardson. What a great story. Go check out Project Limestone, and we thank them for providing some of our footage that we saw here today. Also, 4848 Soccer for providing some of that footage as well. We thank you for that. So another great episode. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We'll see you next time. Another edition of In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. Have a great day, everybody.